reports have you seen of a battle in Ukraine? Zero in the last 6, 7, 8 months. It's one-sided. Putin just kind of sitting back, watching what's going on, wondering, hey, when y'all gonna come over and we'll draw a line here. He doesn't want Ukraine. He doesn't want Europe. At least he's got enough land of his own. He just wants to make sure that he does not have United States weapons in Ukraine pointing at Moscow.
Yeah.
It's Ken Harbaugh with Against All Enemies on the MeidasTouch Network. Today, I'm talking to my good friend, Dan Helmer, an Army vet who served in Iraq and Afghanistan and is now a member of the Virginia House of Delegates and is running for Congress, where, Dan, I suspect you'll be on the House Armed Services Committee. How do you respond to someone like Tommy Tuberville directly parroting Russian propaganda, using his position as a senator to spread disinformation that hurts our national security?
Ken, we're seeing constantly these attacks on our democracy and our foreign policy by extreme MAGA Republicans like Tommy Tuberville. And whether it's his holding up appointments of generals and admirals because he wants to take away women's rights, or it's him parroting Donald Trump's and Putin's talking points about Russia, we can see that there's this real move to undermine our democracy, to embrace authoritarianism, and to do it not only at home, but on a world stage. And we should be scared.
It is a shocking pivot for a party that used to claim the mantle of the National Security Party to now be directly parroting Putin's propaganda, to have the leader of that party have this weird affinity for autocrats, and Putin is at the top of that list. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say it's infected the mainstream of that party now. They held up aid for a critical ally, Ukraine, for 7 months to appease a cult leader, Donald Trump.
It's terrible, Ken. And people are feeling it. I mean, I got 2 stories to share with you quickly, which is my grandmother is a Holocaust survivor. And that's an important part of her story. She survived in what is now Ukraine during the war. But after the war, the Soviets swept through. And because she was Jewish and her family was Jewish, declared them enemies of the states. And they once again had to flee as Jews. That's what totalitarian government is all about. Those are the glory days that Putin celebrates. And yesterday I was in my community, talked to a Vietnamese American man who had escaped the United States in 1979. And he said, look, I've seen what dictatorship means. And I am proud of people like you who are standing up for our democracy, because you have an entire set of MAGA extremists who are embracing authoritarianism, who have said they have a plan for 2025 to mimic what Putin has done in Russia. And we should be very concerned.
Paul Ryan just said he would not vote for Donald Trump. He is one of a handful, not enough, but a handful of former senior Republicans who have found their conscience, found their backbone, and said they would not follow this party leader, this cult leader, into the abyss. Do you think there is hope that the Republican Party will be able to reform itself, looking to examples like this?
I really hope it does, Ken. But until then, I see my job as making sure they don't win at the ballot box.
Indeed. What's your reaction when you see people like Tommy Tuberville, who, you're a vet, Tommy Tuberville called himself the most military person there is, and there he is diminishing the sacrifice of Ukraine's defenders by saying there isn't even a war happening in Ukraine?
Yeah. How do you defend yourself as somebody who supports our military when you increase the likelihood of military conflict, when you undermine our allies, when you undermine our national security, and when you deny women service members the opportunity to exercise their own rights? That's who Tommy Tuberville is. And that represents increasingly a strain of thought among the MAGA Republicans that we ought to deny people their rights. We ought to deny democracy. And the only thing that matters is that we declare ourselves the winners of elections, no matter what happens.
You said that those statements by people like Tommy Tuberville and others increase the likelihood that Americans will find themselves engaged in a shooting war. Can you explain that? Explain the stakes in Ukraine. What happens if we don't help the Ukrainians stop Putin inside Ukraine?
America has always, since World War II, led on the world stage. We have countered aggression, and we have done it through and with our allies. It is incredibly important that we support our allies, that we make sure that they have the armaments that they need, because it's very clear that Putin has decided that he is going to work with China and Iran to try to set up an axis against the United States. And at some point, if it's not our allies that we're engaged with to help them, it can threaten America itself. I never want to be in that position. I want us to lead through a diplomacy. I want to make sure that American troops aren't deployed to counter aggressive threats from Russia or China. And the best way to do that is to support our allies and to make sure we lead with diplomacy and engage in diplomacy throughout the world.
And all you need to do is talk to Russia's neighbors to appreciate the real nature of the threat. Don't trust the Tommy Tubervilles. Talk to the Polish. Talk to the leaders and the citizens of the Baltic states. They know what's coming if they don't help Ukraine hold the line.
Look what happened in Georgia, right? In Georgia already, this is a repeat play. It's not like Russia's invasion of Ukraine was the first time it got engaged there. It got engaged in Ukraine in the mid-2010s, and it seized land illegally, right? It got engaged in Georgia in the early 21st century and seized land there. It is undermining democracies throughout Europe, both through military means and through non-military means. And if we don't work jointly with our allies to confront this threat, we will find it at our own doorstep.
This episode of Burn the Boats is brought to you by Manukora honey. This miracle of nature just fell into my lap at the perfect time. It's a rare super honey that is 100% natural and has some unique properties. Manukora makes Manuka honey, a single origin honey that comes from New Zealand, where the bees only feed on the nectar of the Manuka tea tree, making honey that is pure, rich, complex, with a creamier texture that is on a completely different level from the normal honey you find at the supermarket. You can use it as you would any other honey, but what puts the super in Manuka honey is it's rich in oxidants and prebiotics, 3 times more compared to regular honey. On top of that, it contains an antibacterial compound called MGO that can be found exclusively in Manuka honey. The bottom line is that these nutrients support your optimal immune and digestive health, and it's delicious. Manukora sent me a jar and squeeze bottle of their MGO 850 Plus Manuka honey, their best-selling honey. The 850 Plus honey has a creamy caramel texture that is unlike anything I've ever tried. Just grab a spoonful out of the jar and I put it in my favorite beverage, or I squeeze some out on toast or oatmeal. It's delicious. Manukora is savory, delicious, and truly the best honey I've had. If you head to manukora.com/boats, you can get $25 off their starter kit, which comes with the MGO 850 Plus Manuka honey, a free travel pack of honey sticks, a free wooden spoon, and also a free guidebook. It's the perfect gift for a loved one, no matter the season. I love the jar and squeeze bottle, but the extra pack of compostable honey sticks is perfect for whenever you're on the go. You can bring them with you when you're traveling or need a quick snack running errands, and they are the perfect energy boost if you're out for a run or at the gym, especially this time of year. That's manukora.com/boats to get $25 off your starter kit. This is just the ultimate honey. Indulge and try some honey with superpowers from Manukora. Thanks, Dan. I'm going to end with this clip of a face-off at point-blank range, just to highlight the point that there is indeed a war happening on the front lines between Ukraine and Russia, notwithstanding the Russian propaganda that people like Tommy Tuberville are spouting. Here's the clip. Thanks for watching, everyone. I have been so humbled by the support of this audience and the speed at which this show has grown. You are why I and the whole team here do this. If you're interested in bonus content, check out my Patreon page. It's free to sign up, and there's an option to donate as well. The link is right there and in the show notes. Thanks again.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.